Hello and welcome back to this video tour of an example project that I developed for my portfolio. In some of the earlier videos, we talked a little bit about, how this project got started as part of a certificate that I did for Penn State. Talked a little bit about the welcome module here, as well as an overview of the course, and then another video on lesson 1. So you can go back and look at those two videos if you have any questions about an overview of the course or lesson 1. For this video, I'll be focusing on lesson 2, and then in future videos, we'll go into lessons 3, 4, and 5. So as you can see, this kind of follows the overall structure of all the lessons. There's learning objectives, there's an introduction and some content pages, an assignments page to make sure that everyone has all the readings and links and videos that they need to kind of look at for this lesson, a quiz that reviews all of that information, and a discussion piece as well. So we're just going to take a look at the learning objectives for this course. So in the previous one, we kind of had our lesson focus on the impacts, and here we're going to go and look at the causes of climate change. So the learning objectives are to list and describe the 6 major greenhouse gases, to recall the major contributors to individual greenhouse gases. So, for example, where does carbon dioxide come from, predominantly, etc. To define and integrate key concepts related to the carbon cycle, water cycle, and greenhouse effect, and to summarize the main causes of climate change. This is a 1-credit course conceived, it's a pretend course that started out of a project that I had for a class. So, and the prompt for it was 1 credit. So it's all very basic overview information. None of it is going to go very detailed. And in this, something that I wanted to talk about, I'm not sure I talked about in the other videos so much, is that I kind of view this as having a knowledge acquisition overall learning goal piece, and then an attitudinal learning goal that has to do with, starting to get invested in climate change and wanting to take part and participate in energy conservation in order to fight back against climate change. So the previous lesson 1, I think, was focused more on that attitudinal piece, and then this lesson is going to focus more on that knowledge acquisition piece. So going in, there's some preliminary information, trying to focus again on kind of having a more solution-focused approach, which I talked about in the lesson 1 video. And then we kind of get into, the main content in terms of knowledge acquisition is going to be about the greenhouse effect, the different cycles that are at play with the carbon cycle, the water cycle, etc. And then it's going to focus in on what has been identified by the EPA and other sources as the main contributors to the greenhouse effect. So those greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, F gases, ground level ozone, and the water vapor. So because it would have been, and I did at one point think about having all of this information just on this one introduction page. When I tried it out like that, what I found is that the page was really long, and I just thought that the content would benefit from being broken up into more different pages. So if we jump here, we have kind of a much shorter page on water vapor. I wanted to emphasize water vapor, though, because it does play in very much into the greenhouse effect. Water vapor is a completely normal and natural gas that is emitted. However, in this kind of like derailed, unnatural process that has started from other greenhouse gases, water vapor as well has gotten out of control. So it's normal for there to be a certain amount of water vapor in the atmosphere, but because of the influence of all these other gases, there's an abnormal amount in the atmosphere, which is basically trapping too much heat as part of the greenhouse effect. And so all those other greenhouse gases are kind of feeding into the water vapor issue. And I wanted to kind of emphasize that here by breaking it out. And here, the other gas that I wanted to break out is carbon dioxide. I think carbon dioxide is kind of the biggest influence of all those greenhouse gases that is kind of influencing things like water vapor. I think it's one of the most heard about and discussed because of that. There are other greenhouse gases that I think play really important role and get overlooked, but there's no question that carbon dioxide is really important in this issue. So one of the ways that, carbon dioxide is emitted is primarily through fossil fuels. So in each greenhouse gas page, it'll look at, what are the emission rates, kind of what are the effects that it's thought to have, what are maybe some natural sources of it, and then what are the unnatural sources. So here we are kind of delineating that fossil fuels are kind of the way that it's starting to get affected in a unnatural and accelerated and harmful way. And as you can see, I've kind of bolded key terms here. I have some pictures that are up. The pictures have alternative text for accessibility, and they're also sourced to the copyright-free source where I got them from, which is unsplash.com. So moving along, we have our other greenhouse gases here. For each one, you can have a link that kind of will go to a public access site that has more specific information. I didn't talk about this on water vapor or carbon dioxide, but those also had those links which learners can click and break out more. And then there's also summaries right on this Canvas page. Again, it kind of talks about the emission rates, the ways it's naturally emitted, the ways it's unnaturally emitted, and the effect that we think those unnatural and kind of too much kind of overproduction of these gases, how that's affecting everything. So those 6 greenhouse gases are really the focus of this lesson. For the lesson assignments, they should be reading those Canvas pages. There's a video here that talks about the climate change and kind of how it likens it to a big game of Tetris, where it's just adding up to be too much and becoming overwhelming to our natural cycles and natural atmosphere. There's an external reading link here. And here is something that for all the lessons that have quizzes that I developed that I just kind of want to show off a little bit. So for all of the knowledge acquisition goals and everything, it's matched very closely to the learning objectives, and then it's turned into here in different flashcards. So as you can see, this is a lot of the key terms that were bolded earlier in the lesson. And you can go to cram.com. This is optional for them. And you can kind of use these flashcards in different ways to prepare for the tests. Now it is free, so you do have to deal with ads that can be pretty annoying. But once you get past that, you can kind of use this to practice for the quiz, which they will have 3 attempts to do the quiz in case they have trouble. So here's greenhouse gas. You can then flip the side to see the answer, say if you got it right or wrong. You can also kind of test yourself on it and kind of there's a matching game they can use to prepare. And there's other games that they can use to study their flashcards too. So there's lots of different ways. For me personally, when I have tried to study a lot of information, I've always found flashcards very useful. When I was doing all of that, there wasn't anything like cram.com, and I kind of wish that there was cram.com because it's something I would have utilized a lot as a learner to try to help get a hold of a lot of information. Hopefully this isn't too much specific information for learners. It's been kind of sectioned off in a way that's manageable, but here is a quiz that they can use. So again, there are 3 attempts for the quiz, and all of the questions on the quiz tend to be multiple choice questions and true and false questions. And they all correlate very specifically to the key terms that have been bolded. And again, the information that was on the flashcards. I mean, some of it is taken almost verbatim. The goal isn't here to be tricky or anything like that. The goal is just to have them kind of get a handle on that information in order to satisfy the knowledge acquisition goal of the course. And so here we have now our discussion. Each lesson has a discussion at the end to try to kind of foster and facilitate that social learning aspect. This particular discussion is focused on the final project for the course. So basically, I just want learners at this point to already be thinking about and discussing amongst each other how they might want to approach that final project. And so here the assignment is to think about different topics that are located within the course content or adjacent to the course content, share information with each other, and start thinking about which topic might be important for them and that they might want to kind of turn into some kind of actionable step that they can take in the final project to kind of actually be a part of the change here and not just be something that's academic or that they're writing out in an essay or answering on a quiz. So that's the discussion for this lesson. And I believe that is all of the pages for lesson 2. So in the next video, I'll take a look at lesson 3, which will follow a similar format that hopefully learners will kind of get familiar with and feel like they know what they're getting into with each lesson because it has similarity to the previous lessons. But for now, I'll end this video here. Once again, I really appreciate your time and attention, and I hope you have a wonderful day.